As I'm trying to fall asleep, something happens. A thunder crash rings out from somewhere in the building, and then the sound of glass being smashed. I jump out of bed, now wide awake, my heart racing as I follow the sound of shouts and the thud that follows. I rush to the living room where Sarah is sleeping. She's already up and confused. What's going on? Sarah asks, blinking sleepily through the dark. I think someone's breaking in, I yell in return. Sprinting down the stairs together, we crash out into the hallway and look around wildly for the source of the commotion. What I see next makes my heart drop. The back door to the boutique is flung wide open, the shadowy figures within not even attempting to hide their presence. I know that the smart thing to do would be to call the police and find somewhere safe to wait, but the only thing I can think of is the boutique. All my hard work, my entire life, is right through that door. Without thinking, I pushed through the door and immediately noticed Grace's pale head of hair, and Jet's hulking form as they wrestle another man to the ground. Flipping on the light switch, the men blink against the light as they pin the guy down and snap towards me, but my focus is no longer on them. The boutique is trashed. One of the curtains has been torn, and an accessory display has been knocked over, the glass shelving laying smashed all over the floor. My heart sinks, seeing the mess. What on earth happened here? What the hell is going on? Sarah demands before I can speak. My attention zeroes in on the three men on the ground, one of whom I don't recognize, my blood igniting beneath my skin. Gray jumps to his feet immediately, his hands held out in front of him, and his eyes wide and his eyes wild. I'm so sorry, Hazel. This is my fault. I should have made sure he didn't drink so much. I'll see him out. Jet hoists the drunken man to his feet without even breaking a sweat and ushers him towards the back door. I'll get the door. Sarah follows behind them, helping Jet get the guy out of the building. I watched them go before turning back to Gray, noticing the small scrape hidden behind his hair on his forehead. He got hurt. The sight of his injury slowly diminishes my anger. Sit down, I say. He does as I ask, taking the small stool from behind the counter and sitting down, his head bowed guiltily. We haven't talked since our last argument, and I'd be lying if I said the air between us wasn't uncomfortable. But if I'm being honest, I've had enough of the tension. I find my first aid kit and pull out a couple of supplies, ripping open an antiseptic wipe and leaning in towards him, his knees on either side of me. I really am sorry, he says quietly, hissing when the alcohol from the wipe hits his open wound. Things weren't supposed to get so out of control. I believe you, I say, sighing softly. The damage to the boutique devastates me, but at least nothing was stolen. But this can't happen again, Gray. I trusted you when I let you rent the basement. I move his hand to hold the wipe to his forehead, the fabric staining red as the cut continues to bleed. I grab a small set of bandages to hold the wound together. It won't happen again. He watches me as I patch him up. From now on, I'll ban the guys from drinking while they're here. I nod solemnly, and he moves his hand when I lean in to place the bandage over the cut, his warm breath tickling my face. My skin tingles where his eyes linger, my heart beating quicker and quicker as I smooth the bandage down to make sure it'll stay in place. Gray takes my hand in his before I can move away, grasping it between his fingers. I am so sorry, Hazel, he whispers, for this and everything else. I drop my gaze between us, suddenly unable to meet his eyes. Warm fingers slip beneath my chin and tilt my face to his, forcing me to look at him. Oh, what a miss. Jet's voice booms from behind me as footsteps enter the room. I pull my head away from Gray, stepping back quickly. No thanks to your friend. Sarah bites out as she rounds the counter and finds the small dustpan and brush I keep there. Here you go, big guy. She hands them over to Jet, raising an eyebrow. Time to clean up. Oh, you don't have to, I start, but Jet holds up a hand to stop me. Yeah, I do. I'm supposed to be looking after the security of this place when everyone's here. I'm sorry. I haven't done a very good job of it tonight. He looks so sad that I can't help but feel a little bit sorry for him, even though it was my boutique that was trashed. The four of us clean up together, making quick work of it. Sarah and I pick through the accessories as the guys clean the glasses, putting the merchandise safely on the counter and out of the way. When the floor is clear of glass shards, Jet and Gray stand the shelves back up again, inspecting the damage. I can fix these, Jet says, holding the shredded curtains in his hands, or I can sew some new ones, whichever you prefer. You know how to sew? I ask skeptically, and he nods. How did you learn? Oh, my mother taught me, he says shyly, rubbing at the back of his neck. I got into a few scraps growing up and ended up with more than a few torn clothes. She got tired of mending them, so eventually made me learn to do it myself. Smart woman, Sarah says with a smile. I like the sound of her. Jet gives a small smile, a red flush showing on his cheeks. I have some spare fabric from when I made these. If you're serious about making new ones, I offer. He nods and seems to brighten at that, obviously feeling guilty for what had happened. Perfect. Would you mind if I used your sewing machine? Sure, follow me. I locate the fabric for Chet, still dubious about the range of his sewing skills, but impressed that he's willing to give it a go. The four of us head back to the workroom, and I help Jet get set up with the sewing machine before leaning back against one of the tables and letting out a breath. Greg comes over beside me, giving a grim smile. Well, it looks like I'm taking you shopping for new shelves tomorrow. I have to cover the expenses. It's okay, my insurance will cover it. I wave a dismissive hand, planning on making a claim first thing in the morning. Gray shakes his head, less than impressed with that answer. It'll be easier and a lot less painful if you let me replace it for you, I insist. I chew on my lip as I think about it. Insurance claims can take some time to be approved, and the sooner I can replace the shelving, the better. And if he's insisting, okay, fine, I give in, and he nods in agreement. We can go in the morning before my appointments. Sounds good to me. Will you check in on your friend tomorrow? I add as an afterthought, hoping the guy made it home alright. Make sure he's okay. I know he wrecked my boutique, but he seemed to be in a pretty bad state. Grace snorts at this question and leans back against the table. Sure, if only to tell him never to show his face around here again. Ow. I look over quickly, seeing Jed covering his thumb with his other hand while Sarah hovers over him. Oh, are you alright? She pries his hand away, looking over the small wound and tutting quietly. It's just a prick, Jed says, his cheeks turning red. Happens all the time. I'll get something to fix it up, Sarah answers before heading for the first aid kit. That won't be necessary. It's not an injury, Jed grumbles awkwardly. Shut up and let me fetch you a plaster, she fires back stubbornly. Jed averts his eyes from her, not wanting to argue. I watch her in silence, though she seems completely oblivious. When she returns to Jed, I glance at Gray, who gives me an equally confused look. When Sarah starts mothering over someone, I know she has a thing for them. It seems Gray is also able to pick up the vibe between them. You'd think she'd call the whole hospital just because someone pricked her finger. Gray whispers softly so the two can't hear. Then the two of us chuckle, turning to hide our amusement from Sarah and Jed, who each throw us a scathing look. Our laughter subsides, and I end up leaning in closer to Gray, our arms brushing against each other as we watch our best friends with interest. And I have to admit that this is much nicer. being on talking terms again. I wouldn't quite call us friends, but at least for now, it's just nice. I yawned loudly, stifling it with a with the back of my hand as I blink my eyes sleepily. Gray nudges me with his shoulder. You should go get some rest, he says. Remnants, the laughter still dancing in his eyes. We'll kick everyone out and finish cleaning up here. I don't know. After what happened tonight, I'd rather keep an eye on things myself, I say, even though sleep weighs on me heavily. Gray gives me a look, chuckling when all I do is stare back at him sternly. Look at you. You can barely keep your eyes open, Gray teases, twirling a strand of my hair around his finger. I'll lock the place up. I promise it'll be safe. I tried to give him a firm look, but I'm so tired that I doubt I look very convincing. Alright, fine, I say reluctantly, too tired to try to hide the small smiles that peeks out. Sweet dreams, he grins. I pull Sarah away from Jed and we head back up to my apartment together, the two of us quiet. When we've returned, I face Sarah with an amused smile on my lips. So, you seemed to be getting on with Jed, I say to her, raising my voices with as much insinuation as I can muster. She makes a sound and puts out her tongue. The mountain man? No, I don't think so. Denial, I see. Why not? He seems nice, I say, and he knows how to sue. That's a bonus. Sarah gives me a distasteful look, her eyes narrowed. Don't even get me started, unless you want me to start talking about you and Gray. What? There's nothing to talk about where that's concerned, I say, a bit more defensive sounding than I'd look. I saw you when Jed and I came back into the boutique, you know. Looked pretty chummy to me, she replies. Words fail me, though before I can even struggle to string together a sentence, she asks, Have you told him who you are yet? No, I say, thinking back on the photos, and you have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, go to bed then, she sings as she skips back over to the sofa and shuffles beneath her blanket. Then she gives me a suggestive look through the dim light. I hope you dream of Gray. She giggles and I resist to urge to pummel her, instead huffing to myself and heading towards my room to go back to sleep. Gray and I are simply acquaintances, and that's that. Sarah's the one who's dreaming if she thinks that anything more will ever come of it. And besides, what kind of relationship, even a friendship, could be built on a lie? How about this one? I stand beside Gray and the set of shelves he's suggesting, looking them over. They're pretty similar. If we can find the same in white, they'll be perfect, I say, he smiles back at me. Let's keep looking then. We stroll through we stroll through IKEA together, an enormous furniture warehouse, letting ourselves get distracted by the little showrooms that set up here and there. The curtains that should have soon formed the boutique were perfect. I doubt I could have done a better job myself. Much to my surprise, the only left to replace now is the shelving. If only we could focus for long enough to find the right one. We enter an expensive looking kitchen area, and I circle the black granite counter, pretending to cook with the show pots and pans while putting on a posh accent. Dinner will be ready at 6:30 precisely. Lobster thermidor and black caviar, my favorite. Gray sits himself down on one of the stools and pretends to sip from one of the teacups set up on the table, putting out his pinky finger and everything. The two of us giggle at our silly antics and move on to the area with all beds. There's so many. There's one fancy bed that looks so soft and plush that I can't stop myself from dropping my handbag and lying back on it, sinking into the feathery comforter. Oh my god, this is heaven. I sigh at the softness. Gray ends up joining me, making the mattress sink down with his extra weight. Can we stay here the rest of the day? Gray chuckles, the mattress shaking beneath us as he does so. While I'd love to spend all day in bed with you, I remember you saying something about having appointments this afternoon, he says smoothly. With a groan, I pull out of one of the pillows from behind my head and hurl it at him. He laughs again as he catches it between his hands. All I'm saying is, as your friend, I'm reminding you of your responsibilities, he adds, and I wrinkle my nose in thought. He really thinks we're friends? I look over at him, his body barely inches away from mine, and suddenly I'm reminded of last night and how close things had gotten. But if you'd rather stay in bed with me, then who am I to stop you? He winks, and my mouth drops open at the insinuation. And what would we do in bed? I tease, playing along with him. His eyes widen a little, as though he hadn't expected me to be so bold, but the grin that snakes onto his lips tells me he likes it. Oh, there's so many options, he says, a mischievous glint in his eyes. It all depends on what you like. I lay on my side and face him, smoothing my hand over the covers between us. I can tell he's trying to push me, making me break and blush. But what he doesn't know is I'm totally prepared to push him right back. So what do you like? I ask, my lips twisting into a sly smile. I like to take control, he says quietly, his eyes drifting down my body, all the way to the toe that curl in my shoes. I like starting slow, taking my time, drawing it out. His eyes lock on mine, challenging me to take it further. I kick off my shoes slowly, one and then the other, letting them fall over the edge of the bed, and then I get comfortable, laying back on the pillows and letting my hair splay around it. Gray glances around us quickly, and upon seeing no one around, he pushes himself up on an elbow and leans in closer. Are you trying to get us in trouble? He whispers, his eyes a low his voice a low rasp. Maybe, I tease, running my fingers over my stomach and watching his eyes follow the trail. How much trouble can you be? This is hardly the right time or place to find out. He grits out, his breath heavy and his eyes hard. So what you're saying is you really don't want to stay in bed with me? I watched the muscles feather in his jaw, all too aware of his struggle. This is way too much fun. Thinking he's reached his limit, I giggle quietly and push myself up, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. I start to stand until an arm wraps around my waist and pulls me back down against the soft covers, and a surprised yelp escapes me. I don't remember giving you permission to leave, Gray breathes as he hovers over me, using his thumb and forefinger to tilt my chin towards him. My throat tightens and my heart thumps loudly. I grit my teeth to keep from giving away exactly how disoriented he's making me feel. You think you can push me, Hazel? You have no idea how far I can go. So why don't you show me? I blink up at him, raising my voice with mock sweetness and watching his nostrils flare wide. If he's not going to back down, then I absolutely refuse to do it first. At least that's what I was telling myself until someone clears their voice loudly somewhere nearby. Did you need help with anything in here? An unfamiliar voice startles me, and I scramble to sit upright, adjusting myself, and I stand and look over at the salesperson. We're just looking, thanks, I tell her in a hurry. She gives me a knowing look before she disappears, and my cheeks flush red with embarrassment. Gray's shoulders shake with laughter, and I push him playfully, laughing when he pulls me back down with his again. It takes a little while, but after successfully seizing my laughter enough to untangle myself from him, we continue browsing through the store. Between chatting and laughing with each other, it doesn't take long before I've forgotten all about why we came here in the first place. This is the first time I spent actual time with Gray, and I'm finding myself enjoying his company, probably much more than I should, given the current circumstance. But despite everything, he makes me smile. His laugh is infectious, and I have to admit, he's easy on the eyes. Though the uncomfortable thing is, no matter how hard I try to forget it, my mind always wanders back to the reason I agreed to let him rent my basement in the first place, and why he's currently in my life. I can't stop myself from remembering that night long ago. Blue and red, flashing lights, handcuffs, and a knife. I swallow thickly around the lump in my throat, trailing behind him a little more and putting some distance between us. Is this the one? I stroll slowly over to where he stands, examining the shelving. That's it, exactly the same, I say, forcing my voice to stay bright. Voice. Gray looks around, nudging my arm when he spots the same salesperson from earlier watching us. Let's grab a box and get out of here, he says, his tone amused. I think we've overstayed our welcome. Once we've bought the shelf and finally returned to Raindrop, Gray immediately goes to assemble it. I think we're missing a piece, Gray announces as he holds the instructions up to his nose, inspecting them thoroughly. I look over the pieces that are splayed out in front of us. There's more than enough to put this shelving together with. Yep, I'm right, as usual. We're missing this piece right here, he continues, pointing at the page. I peek over his shoulder from where he sits on the floor, his long legs bent in front of him. A small smile slips onto my face as I glance at the instructions. Hey, Gray, move your feet, would you? I say. Huh? Why would I? Oh. He grabs the missing piece from beneath his shoe, giving me a sheepish look. Here it is. We have everything we need, I say with a laugh, attempting to take the instructions from his hands. He scowls a little and pulls them back out of reach, swatting my hand away playfully. I'm in charge of building this thing. You just sit back and do what I do, and do what I say. I sigh, reluctantly pulling my hand back as he reads over the instructions again, talking out loud. We need to find pieces F and G and connect them together with these screws and then these little plasticky things. Just out of curiosity, have you ever built anything like this before? I ask, raising an eyebrow. No, I have not, he admits. But I don't see why that matters. I don't think so, I laugh, prying the instructions from his hands. Just sit there and watch how a pro does it. With the raise of his eyebrow, he leans back on his hands as I connect the two sides of the shelving in place. Using my small electric drill, I safely secure the screws before adding the next piece. I give Gray a few instructions to keep him from sulking, and it doesn't take long before he's helping me move the completed shelving back into positions. Afterwards, I gather the accessories from the counter and arrange them back in place neatly, ready to be sold. With the curtain fixed and the shelving put together, everything is back to normal. Gray and I both lean against the counter, admiring our work. You're pretty handy, aren't you? He glances at me sidelong, as though he expected something else entirely. I've had to be, I say with a shrug. I put this place together on my own, with some help from Sarah. There's no one else around who could have helped you? I pause to look at him, and when he gives me that lopsided grin, I know exactly what he's trying to imply. If you're asking me if I have a boyfriend, then I'm pretty sure you would have seen one coming around by now, don't you? You could have some long-distance thing going on for all I know, he says matter-of-factly, and I bite down the smile that threatens to escape. I don't have a boyfriend, not that it's any of your business. He chuckles, holding his hands up innocently. Alright, I'll keep my nose out of it. Silence stretches, and now that he's brought up the topic, I find myself thinking more about it. Well, what about you? What about me? He asks, raising an eyebrow. Are you asking me if I have a girlfriend, miss? Not that it's any of your business? My cheeks heat, feeling stupid for having brought it up. I look away quickly, but he only chuckles quietly. Then no, I don't. I never found anyone, well, worth settling down for it. An awkward silence stretches, one where I debate whether I should make the next move or just keep my mouth shut. So I suppose there's no one around to mind if you take me out for dinner then, I say at last, deciding I'm not the type to keep my mouth shut after all. Gray looks at me in disbelief, and for a moment I worry if he's going to laugh at my forwardness. You serious? He asks. Isn't that what you wanted? Yeah, it was. I mean, it is. He turns, and finally that crooked grin of his slips into place. I still want to take you out. I can't stop myself from returning his smile, even when a small sense of dread slowly worms its way into my stomach. It's a date then, I say, watching as Gray nods in agreement. Yeah, it's a date.